You know, some people just like to go to sauna and stuff like that, but I figured out that the serious storm is actually the best way to relax.
A few moments later.
Hey guys, how you doing? I hope you're fine. So, I already know what you're thinking. This again? Are we gonna have to watch him play with Zuber exact balls again? But you're wrong. First of all, how can you not play with Zuber exact balls? They're just so fun to play with. Secondly, if you watched the video on the previous version of the build, you probably have noticed a big difference already. That's right, in this version I abandoned the idea of getting high movement speed and settled on shield charge frostblink to move around, which let me get stun immunity. Therefore, I can play with a lot more balls than before. And if that's not enough to convince you to try this build already, then there is more coming up. And lastly, I get it. So for a change, I'll show you a Wave 15 simulacrum as an ending to this video. Also guys, what did you think about my intro? Did you like it? I tried to upscale the production value, and that's something I did for 700 subs, so can you imagine what I'll do for 1000? That's tell you we're going crazy guys. So at the end of the video on the Pathfinder Forbidden Light version, I talk about this version that I found on a Chinese guy's video. And I really tried my best to find it for you guys so I could link the original and give credit to the guy. Unfortunately, I could not do that. So I'm very sorry. And if you know which video I'm talking about, please put it in the comments so I can put it in the description. So here we go. This is how we achieve Tankyness. Last time, if you watched the video, you know that I told you there is different way to achieve the same result. And this is exactly what it is. Now, the idea is still the same. We are converting fire and cold damage to lightning and chaos, and also converting lightning to chaos. That is our first layer of defense with max resistance. Our second layer is using Doppelganger, which give us 40% less of physical and chaos damage taken. And the last layer is using Progenesis and Petrified Blood to delay the damage, convert instant damage into damage over time, and counterbalancing the damage over time with a massive life recovery per second. And to achieve this conversion, we are using 3 jewels. The first one is a Glorious Vanity affected by Xibaqua. It gives us Divine Flesh, which converts 50% of all elemental damage taken to Chaos. The second one is a Sublime Vision, that is giving us 30% of fire and cold damage converted to lightning while affected by Purity of Lightning. And the last one is a Watch Your Eyes with the same mod. It says 19% of fire and cold damage taken as lightning while affected by Purity of Lightning. So rolled perfectly, it should be 20%, and that goes to a total of 100. We get 50 from Divine Flesh, 30 from the Sublime Vision, and 20 from the Watch Your Eyes, for a total of 100% of cold and fire damage converted to either lightning or chaos. As an extra layer of defense, we are also using Magebane to give us spell suppress. As for the massive life recovery, we achieve that by being a Pathfinder and grabbing a little bit of flask effect everywhere on a tree. And on top of that, we add some massive buff. So we have the Tide of Time that gives us 120% increased life recovery from flask. Then we have the flask itself. Since we are low life, we get 130% more recovery every time we use it. And on the tree itself, we get different points, such as Mender's Wellspring that give us 25 life recovery from flask, and then Herbalism that give us 30, and Profane Chemistry that give us another 30. And finally, we are using the Soul of Rislata that give us another 60% if we use on low life. So although the Pantheon can be swapped with Yuggle, like if you need to run a map with a lot of X's or Reflect, I use this to cap myself immune to Reflect and Curse. So depending on the situation, I swap between these two. Most of the time I'm just on Rislata. Okay, so now let's dive a little bit more in the DPS. This is a cast and crit setup. So we're using Awaken cast and crit. and Lancing Steel of Spraying to trigger Crackling Lens of Disintegration and Lightning Conduit of the Heaven. But that is only the base damage. Now we need to scale that up. And to do that, we have two ways of getting a massive increase in damage. The first one is a combo of Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh, which give us Oath of Spring. And Oath of Spring gives us basically double damage. Right? It allows us to get 50 stack of shock and 2% effect for each stack. Which means if we get to cap it out, it's a 100% more damage. And the second way we get to increase our damage is with the mercenary. The mercenary is actually accounting for about 80% of our damage. So we are using the Fallen Reverend with 0.3 and Wrath, and scaling the effect of 0.3 and Wrath. And to do that we use two scepters for Wrath effect and the belt for 0.3 effect. On top of that we are also using Doriani with a crafted ring and a mirror of Calandra, a Calandra touch, to get to minus 200 lightning resistance. And all of that put together, the both Aura plus the Doriani, is an insane amount of DPS buff for us. And without it, we lose about 80% of our DPS. And so to keep our mercenary alive, we use Replica Aberrant Warpath, so that the mercenary cannot deal any damage except Chaos, which means he's basically immune to reflect damage. Then we use Defiance of Destiny, and then we use Life Recoup on Ring, as well as Fist Damage Recoup on the helmet implicit. And then the glove is just there to add a little bit more damage with lightning exposure and unnerve. Otherwise it's just resistance and life. So while recording the video, I realized that Absolution is not an attack, therefore the bonus from Aberrant doesn't apply to Absolution, which means the mercenary actually doesn't eat anything and the unnerve and exposure doesn't apply. So to fix that, I just put a little bit of chaos damage, non-chaos as extra chaos, which is enough to proc the unnerve and exposure from the glove with Absolution. Now this build is also using a lot of charges. And since we are using a replica badge of the Brotherhood, we need to get a lot of frenzy charges. And for that we get +3 from the tree, so 2 directly and 1 from the anointment on the amulet. Then we get another 2 from the rings. In choosing the rings is very important, so I'll come back to that later. Then we get another 1 from the glove, which is a corruption. And finally, we get +1 on the shield, which should be coming from a synthesis based. Although I didn't feel like spending 150 div on it, so I just skipped it. So how do we generate all these charges? Well, for endurance charges, we took the easy way out and used Relaxation's Impatience. For the frenzy charges, we are using Blood Rage, and also using the mastery, mark mastery, that gives us 10% chance when we hit a mark enemy. For the power charges, we have two ways of doing that. First, we use Storm Rider, which generates a power charge when we shock a chilled enemy. And how do we chill enemy? We'll come back to that a little bit later when we talk about the helmet. And the second way to go is the mark on hit with Assassin's Mark. So on a rare enemy while we're mapping, it's gonna give us power charges, and on single target, it's also going to give us a little bit more than the 10% of that Storm Rider gives us. So Mark on it and Storm Rider for power charges, Mark Mastery and Blood Rage for frenzy charges, and finally Relaxation's Impatience for endurance charges. Now let's talk a little bit about the glove slot. I went for the end of the item bar because I got all the implicit I wanted, maximum life, frenzy charges, great chance, and all of it cost me a total of 3 divine, which is incredibly cheap if you compare it to the other option that goes for this build. For example, if you want to min-max the damage, you can look at 2 other options. The first one is going to be Algor Mortis. This is a pair of gloves that sap the enemy inside your chilling area, so you're gonna take even less damage from them. And secondly, this enemy in your chilling area will take up to 35% increased lightning damage. And you might be wondering what's a chilling area. Well, on this build you have 2. The first one is the chilling ground left behind by the Arctic armor when you run around, and the second one is your frost shield. So as long as the enemy is in either of these areas, the glove will apply. Now, as you might have guessed, it won't be easy to use it during mapping. This is mostly for bossing, right? If you want to get even more damage than that and have it apply as well on bosses and mapping, then you have another option called abhorrent interrogation. Now, this pair of glove has a line that is confusing. Enemy takes 4% increased elemental damage from your hits for each wizard you have inflicted on them. And there's no mention of inflicted on them recently, and there's no mention of changing the effect of wizard, so you could assume that if you have inflicted 1,000,000 wizard on the enemy, they will take 4,000,000% increased elemental damage. But that is not the case. The way this glove works in that the enemy is gonna take 4% increased elemental damage from the source of the wizard stack that they have on them. So if you have a totem that inflicts wizard, this wizard stack will not impact the damage that you inflict on the monster. The wizard have to come from yourself, and that's what it means. So if you apply 15 stack of wizard yourself, then you will be doing 60% more damage basically. And this is very good. So now let's get into the more complex subject. I said earlier that the ring was very important, and this is why. So you have a chance on the ring to get a different thing that you need for the build, to fix the build. Because the build has a little bit of issues that need fixing, and you only have 3 pieces to fix them. Basically, you have a ring that you're gonna duplicate, you have a helmet, and you have a spirit shield. And that's about it. So, you have a choice of getting a mirror ring if you're filthy rich. Then you have a choice of getting a precursor emblem if you have a little bit less money. And finally, you have a choice to get a synthesis ring if you're going for entry prices. Now, to understand what I mean by fixing, I think we should take a look at the mirror ring. And as you can see on this version of the mirror ring, you can get crit multi, maximum frenzy charges, added cold damage per frenzy charges, so you get it on attack and on spell, maximum life, strength and intelligence, and chaos resistance. So this is everything that you can basically dream of. The damage, the cold damage, the frenzy charges, the attribute, and the chaos resistance. This is everything that you need to fix on the 3 pieces. Obviously, the crit multi and the cold damage is the least important one. This is not build breaking, but the chaos resistant and the attributes are very, very important. And this is what you need to get. So in my case, I could not get the chaos resistance on the ring and not a lot of attributes. So I went for a precursor emblem that had a little bit of life, all attribute, resistance, and movement speed, and basically quality of life, power charge on kill, things that could make my life easier. The price was still expensive, but very far away from a mirror ring. And so I went and fixed the rest of the issue with my spirit shield and my helmet. So let's talk a little bit about the helmet. So as I told you, in my case, I could not get chaos resistance on my ring, therefore I have to get it on my helmet. Which means, since I need the chaos resistance, the mana reservation efficiency, and the chance to suppress spell damage, I have no space to put the aspect of the crab that so many people are running on this slot. So yeah, if you manage to get your stats and chaos res on the ring, then you can go and remove the chaos resistance from the helmet and instead put an aspect of the crab. Now, if you don't, like me, and you need to fix your chaos res with the helmet, what you do to craft it is very simple. You're gonna grab a base that is fractured with chaos resistance, tier 1, and then you're gonna spam Essence of Loathing until you hit your chance to spread suppress tier 1. To do that, you need to be careful and make sure the item level is 85 at least. Once that is done, all you have to do is put any Eldritch Searing Exarch, lesser, greater, doesn't matter, as long as there's no Eater of World. And then you're gonna play with Eldritch Currency, Chaos, Exalted, Annulment, and you're gonna play with that until you hit your tier 1 maximum life. Once that is done, if you don't have any space in your prefixes, what you need to do is use the last annulment, Eldritch Annulment, and hope you don't erase your tier 1 max HP. And if you success, then all you have to do is craft the +1 and the helmet is done. Now for the prefixes, what I do is very simple. All you need to understand is that when you use an Orb of Conflict, it has a greater chance to upgrade the lower tier. So if you have a lesser Searing Exarch and a greater Eater of World, it has a way better chance to hit the Searing Exarch and make it go up a tier. So we take advantage of that, and we're gonna spam greater Eater of World until we hit our mana reservation efficiency. And then we're gonna use one exceptional on Searing Exarch to make it a tier 2 against a tier 4. And then we use Orb of Conflict, and we hope it goes to tier 3, tier 3, which is usually the case. If you fail, you just have to put another Orb of Conflict on it until you succeed and make them tier 3, tier 3. When that's the case, you go back and use another exceptional on the Searing Exarch to make it a tier 3 against a tier 4. And then you use your Orb of Conflict until you make Eater of World tier 4 and then Searing Exarch tier 3. I guess you understand what's the next step. That's right, you go back to Searing Exarch with an exceptional, and then it's a tier 4 against a tier 4, so basically it's a 50-50 to succeed, and then you keep spamming Orb of Conflict until your Eater of World hits Exquisite, which is tier 5. And once that is done, you go back to whatever is your budget, greater, grand, and maybe exceptional, Searing Exarch, and then you spam it until you hit the mod that you want. In my case, for this build, you have different choices. You can go lightning damage to spell, you can go +1 max lightning resistance in case you're not capped. That's a possibility because in my case my glove are giving me +2 and my purity of lightning is then 24, which give 5 to maximum resistance instead of 4. So maybe some people might be struggling to get this last percent of maximum lightning resistance, and you can get that in Searing Exarch slot. You can also get something that I forgot. Oh yes, you can get some damage recoup. So you can get some lightning damage recoup or some fist damage recoup. That's it for the helmet. Now for the shield. Well, it's exactly the same thing. We need to fix our stats, attributes, and chaos resistance. So how do we do that? First, we're gonna get a base with fractured chaos resistance. I know, what a shocker. And then guess what? We're gonna spam essence again until we hit another suffix, which is spell crit chance. And once that's done, your suffix are done basically. And now you go to do your prefixes. So how do you do that? Well, as long as you have an open prefix, it's good. If by spamming your essence, you fill up all your prefixes, then you can try to annul one of the prefixes. If you fail that, then you're back to spamming essences. So once you have an open prefix, you're gonna craft suffix cannot be changed, and then you're gonna do Reforge Lightning. If you're lucky, you hit your +1 on lightning spell, but most likely you're gonna hit increase lightning. Now that you have done that, if you don't have an open prefixes, that can happen, then you try to annul prefixes, and if you fail, you go back to the beginning. If you annul a suffix, then you go back to spamming essences. If you annul increase lightning, you go back to reforge suffixes, suffixes cannot be changed, and then reforge lightning. Now, the next step is when you have increased lightning and an open prefix, what you do is suffix cannot be changed again, and then you're gonna augment lightning with the crafting, harvest crafting, because it's gonna first add and then remove. And since +1 all lightning is the only other lightning mod on the shield, it's guaranteed to hit it, and then it's either gonna remove your suffix cannot be changed or your increased lightning damage, right? So if you want to min-max it, you repeat the step until you hit the suffix cannot be changed mod. If you don't care like me, then you craft life and you're done. Now for the weapon, everything that you need is actually just a weapon with a high attack speed, high base crit chance, and then some global crit multi on it. Also, you need an open prefix or a crafted prefix on it, so you can craft yourself. It cannot be evaded. And I put up the research on PoE Thread. That's what it looks like, so you can copy it. And then you search, and then you realize that it is very, very cheap. You have some very cheap options that are very good. Like for example, this is better than mine. Mine just has a 10% chance for crit for spell to do double damage, which is okay. It's 10% more damage basically. But mine costs a lot more. Like the base costs a lot more, and I think getting these for cheap, 2 divine 1 or even 50 C1 is gonna be perfectly fine. Now, in case you wanna make your own and buy a base, and maybe buy a better base with like chance for spell to deal double damage plus explodey, you know, maybe if that's in your budget. The way you craft it is has always the same thing. You're gonna spam essence. You're gonna spam the attack speed essence. Can't remember the name. I think it's Zeal. Attack. Yeah, it's the essence of Zeal. And then you're gonna wait until you hit crit chance or crit multi. And then what you're gonna do is suffix cannot be changed and reforge crit. And if you fail and you block your prefixes, then it's over. The next step is when you have successfully gotten your reforge with a high level of crit multi, crit chance. Then you go back to suffix cannot be changed and you spam, I mean, you don't spam, but you use a Veil Chaos. And then you put a random craft on it and you unveil, helping you get the 5% of non-chaos damage as extra chaos plus the spell damage. And then it's done. Then you handcraft the heat cannot be evaded, and if you feel lucky, you just exalt it and see what's up. Now, I think that we are done, but one last thing. If you could go back to the beginning of the video and look at the time it is in the intro, and look at the time it is now, then you're gonna know how long it took me to make this goddamn video. So my question is, did I miss something? Eh, I'm fucking tired, so probably. If I did, please don't get mad. Just put it in the comment and I'll give you an answer. Alright? And as promised, I'm gonna leave you with a Wave 15 simulacrum. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give me some love. I'm tired as fuck. See you in the next one, guys. Undercover.